Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We are here for the Get Ready for Open Enrollment for OEBB Benefit Administrators. Can you believe it's this time again? We are preparing for open enrollment, and so we have Linda Fries here to go through all the things that you'll need to know to get ready for open enrollment this year.
Thanks,
And
Sarah.
Linda? Yeah.
Well, not only do you have me, but we have pulled Debbie Radish out of retirement. So Debbie is also here with her expertise. Welcome, everybody. It is, can you believe it? It's open enrollment time already for 2025-2026. This is crazy. This is our 17th open enrollment. I don't feel that old, but I guess I am that old. But that's another topic. But yes, it's open enrollment. So this webinar is geared towards the benefit administrators out at the school districts, the community colleges, the local governments, to try to kind of help you guys get in gear for open enrollment and what happens all through that period and even beyond that period. I don't want you to hesitate. I mean, if you have questions, please type them out in the question area, and we've got several people that are on OEBB staff that will be answering questions. But there's not a stupid question. I mean, some of you are very seasoned benefit administrators, but some of you are brand new. So please ask questions. Enough said with that. But let's talk about our plan year. Our plan year is, it's different than the regular plan years. Regular plan years are the calendar year, January 1st to December 31st. But our plan year starts on October 1st of every year, and it ends on September 30th of every year. What does this mean for our membership? It means the medical plan deductibles and the out-of-pocket maximums, they start over every October 1st. That's the bad news. The good news is the dental and vision benefit maximums start over. So that's the good news with those. Okay, thanks. Next slide, Sarah. This upcoming open enrollment is a required open enrollment. What that means is that everybody is going to be required to get in and participate in open enrollment this year. When we do the rollovers that we historically do the first half of August, we will term everyone's medical, dental, and vision plans effective September 30th. So if people don't go in and do open enrollment, they will find themselves without a medical, dental, or vision plan effective October 1st. Next slide. Open enrollment dates. Open enrollment starts on October 15th and it goes through September 15th. What this means is we always bring the system down the day before open enrollment. We bring the system down every year on August the 14th. But the system kicks in at 11:59 the evening when you go to bed on August the 14th. The system magically goes into open enrollment mode at 11:59 p.m. on August the 14th, and it magically goes out of open enrollment at 11:59 p.m. on September 15th. If you have procrastinators, and I know nobody has any staff that procrastinates, it's just unheard of. But if you were to have somebody that didn't get in until September 15th at 11:45 to do their enrollment, and they took longer than 15 minutes, the system's going to kick them out, and open enrollment will be closed to them if they go beyond that magical time of 11:59 p.m. And we have seen quite a few people that have gotten kicked out at midnight and they were not able to complete open enrollment. Some community colleges extend open enrollment. For this upcoming open enrollment, that date is going to be Friday, September the 19th. So Friday, September 19th for, I think we have about 8 community colleges that extend open enrollment. Benefit Health Solutions, BHS, our COBRA administrator, will be ending their open enrollment on September 8th. And they do communicate this out on the COBRA open enrollment mailing, but they are very, very gracious in working with membership that don't quite make that deadline. So they will work with them. But the reason why they cut it off on September 8th is because of their COBRA billing cycle. So they try to get as many enrollments in as possible by that date. And then we have lots of entities that want to shut down open enrollment earlier than September 15th, and that's perfectly fine. But if you do, it's up to you to communicate this to your staff. You need to make sure that, hey, we're going to shut down open enrollment on September 5th. Then your literature going out to your membership needs to really highlight that, because all of the material coming from OEB is going to say September 15th. So just kind of keep that in mind. And during open enrollment, if you are one of those school districts that's shutting down open enrollment early, we would love to get an email coming into our benefits inbox that just says, hey, this is, ABC school district. And just to give you a heads up, our open enrollment closes tonight at midnight. We love getting communications like that from you, because then when we come in the next morning and we get 10 calls from your membership that are like, I can't do open enrollment. Well, yeah, that's because your open enrollment is now closed. You need to go talk with your benefits person at the school district or the community college. So that gives us a heads up so that we're all kind of on the same page. All right, next slide. Our downtime during open enrollment. We will be doing our first rollover on Friday, August the 8th. Expect the system to probably go down around 8 a.m. that morning. It takes our developers, probably about half the day to do the rollover. This is our big rollover, the one that we do on Friday the 8th. And then our staff gets in and just kind of we do a spot check on the rollover to make sure that everything got done correctly. And then we open the system up. So we probably will have the system opened probably late in the afternoon of Friday the 8th. And then, like I said a couple slides ago, we will bring the system down on Thursday, August the 14th. We do a smaller, we call it a mini rollover on the 14th, and the system will be down until open enrollment opens at midnight. Sunday, August 31st. So it's that end of the month cycle where we do the invoicing. We will bring the system down at 8 p.m. and it will stay down until Monday, September 1st. Jackie put in here till about noon. Also remember, this is Labor Day weekend. So this is what we always kind of suggest is maybe don't make this your cutoff time because the system's going to be down on Sunday the 31st, and it won't be up again until, maybe probably before noon, but it could be noon on Monday, September 1st. So it's better to kind of keep your cutoffs away from those dates. We've also always suggested to entities in the past also don't schedule computer labs during this time. I don't think that that's going to be a problem for you this year because it's Sunday and then Monday it's a holiday. And I'm seeing some questions. Is this downtime for employees trying to enroll or just for admins? It's downtime on the admin module. It's not downtime on the member module, correct, Debbie?
Can you repeat that, Linda, please?
When we bring the system down, it's just when we're doing the rollovers, it's just down on the admin module. The member module is still up and running, correct?
No, when the system is down, it is down completely.
Okay, all right. Glad I asked. I am glad I asked. All right, so Sarah, I'm ready for the next slide. Our phone hours during open enrollment, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We will be closed on Monday, September 1st for Labor Day, and we are closed on the weekends. It doesn't mean that staff isn't in there, though, doing some emails. I think during open enrollment, we are in that inbox all hours. I know I am. And I know Debbie probably is also, and a lot of the staff. So, but the phone lines are going to be down on Labor Day, September 1st, and the phone lines are going to be down on the weekends. And this is just your second reminder, Benefit Help Solutions closes open enrollment on September 8th. All right. Required open enrollment. So what happens during our rollover? During the rollover, we're going to roll all medical plans, dental plans, vision plans, and we will term them September 30th, 2025. OEB does mass enrolls for basic and mandatory plans offered by the Standard and Unum. So if you picked a basic life insurance or a basic AD&D plan, or a mandatory short-term or long-term disability, or a mandatory long-term care plan, then the groups that you picked that for, or I think we have a basic dependent life also. So the groups that you picked those plans for during the rollover, anyone that's in that group. So if you picked it for your licensed full-time OEA group, anybody that's in that group is going to have those basic and mandatory plans attached to them. And that's a long time Oregon administrative rule with OEB. If you select basic and mandatory plans for a group, everyone in that group gets those plans attached to them and they cannot be removed. So kind of just keep that in mind. I know right now you're going through EE plan management with Carrie, or you just finished it up. And that's what basic and mandatory means. It means that everybody in the group gets that plan. We will update optional life plan age brackets as of October 1st. So if anybody is moving up to that new age bracket during this rollover time, we will advance them to that new age bracket. We will remove anybody that has answered, are you Medicare eligible? Yes or no. If they have answered no in the past, we are going to remove those no's, and because we want them to mandatorily look at that question each open enrollment and answer it. If they've answered it yes in the past, then we leave it alone. If somebody is actually Medicare eligible and we can see that now, we will advance it to a yes for them. Very, very important. Let me stress this, very, very, very important that membership answers honestly. Are you Medicare eligible, yes or no? Due to age or disability, regardless of whether they're actually enrolling in Medicare or not. We need to know, are they eligible? So that's very, very important. We will remove all of the dev answers and leave them blank so that when they come through and see their dependents, they have to affirm again this plan year that their dependents are eligible. We will clear out any surcharge answers so that they can have a fresh slate on, the double coverage surcharge. All active and COBRA medical opt-outs and declines will be removed. And the only thing that will remain are the dental-only early retirees and spurs. We will leave those alone so that if they're dental-only early retirees or spurs, they don't have to come back in and re-enroll in their dental plan. Okay. OEB doesn't touch any of the optional plans except for the age brackets. So during the rollover, we're not going to touch anybody's, basic life, short-term or long-term disability or long-term care plans. If you didn't select, well, I don't know that I probably should have removed this bullet, but with Paid Leave Oregon, a lot of you have stopped offering a short-term disability plan. I don't know that we're going to really see a lot of that this year because I think everybody's pretty settled in with their plan offerings with Paid Leave Oregon. All right, next slide. Updating salaries. It's very important to make sure that your salaries are updated before open enrollment begins. You can update salaries using the payroll interface, or you can do it manually. Make sure you select the correct start date of the salaries. Salaries help us calculate the premiums for short-term and long-term disability and a few of the basic life plans. And they also help in the future if the member has to file a claim with short-term or long-term disability or basic life plans. If their salary's in there correctly, then everything's great. If their salary is not in there correctly and then they file a long-term disability claim, then the standard's like, well, this person hasn't been paying enough premium. They don't want to pay out the full long-term disability claim. So you run into situations like that. So just make sure that salaries are up to date prior to open enrollment starting. All right. Unum rate changes are coming. We just found this out, I think it's been about 2 weeks ago, that some Unum plans are going to have higher premiums effective October 1st of this plan year. This will include any mandatory or voluntary plans that have the simple inflation rider. So the long-term care plans that do not have the simple inflation rider should not be seeing a premium increase. It will be the ones with the simple inflation rider. I think we only have one school district and under our umbrella that offers the mandatory long-term care plan. So the rest of you that offer it are probably under the voluntary. We're going to share the exact rates once we get Mercer, our actuary, to verify all of the rates, and then Sarah and Forrest will get those out on the website with this is where they're going to for the 2025-2026 year. Once we get a definitive plan in place, we're going to have to get communications out to membership. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. The fact that the rates are going up effective October 1st is like the worst planning, but there's not anything we can do about it because it's not based off of, oh, we would really prefer for them to go to increase effective January 1st. We can't pick the date. The date is selected for us based off of our contractual renewing with Unum. So unfortunately, there is nothing we can do about it. This is the way we're legally bound with them to do this rate increase. But let me talk a little bit about this so that you guys have heard it from me, and we're going to follow this up with letters to the people that will be affected with this. These members will have a contingency offering with Unum, but they won't have it if they go in and cancel their long-term care plan during open enrollment. The contingency offer will come, and I think it comes up to 90 days. So they'll have 90 days to fill out a form and return it to OEB, not to you all. They're going to return it to OEB, this form to OEB that says that they want to cancel their long-term care plan. And then we will use a special QSC event that only OEB staff has access to process this termination. And by doing it this way, after the premiums have increased, the member will be able to take part of the benefit, the money that they paid into this benefit, and use it for long-term care in the future. Now, trust me, there's going to be more to come on this, but membership's probably going to hear about this prior to open enrollment. So here's what we are probably going to see happening during open enrollment. We're going to have membership that goes in and just cancels the plan because they don't want to pay that high of a premium. But if they cancel the plan during open enrollment, they lose the opportunity for this contingency offering that's coming after October 1st. We're going to see some people that during open enrollment that leave it alone, and that's fine. And they may leave it alone because they just want to keep it and they're okay paying the higher premium, or they're waiting until after October 1st because they clearly read all the communications and they're going to cancel it after October 1st. That's cool also. And then we're going to have some people that are going to be like, I don't want the contingency option. I also don't want to pay this high of a premium, but I want to keep some sort of long-term care plan. So they get in during open enrollment and they lower their plan. Maybe they lower it to a non-simple inflation plan, or they lower the monthly benefit. So we're going to see those types of scenarios. We are going to be on the people. They might get some extra communications from us. The people that just flat out cancel their plan during open enrollment, we're going to probably be on them a little bit with some extra notices after open enrollment, like, hey, did you really mean to cancel your plan because you've got this offering that's coming? So I probably shared too much because Sarah put in here, we'll share more details later, but so I shared probably more than I should, but I want you guys to understand that the premiums are increasing. We don't even know what that means. I've got some percentages that I've seen, but until Mercer really approves those finalized premiums, we can't post anything out onto the website. I know that some of you all are already getting literature from Unum that says premiums are going up, and that is true. So we wanted to address it in this webinar. It's very appropriate for us to address it in this webinar, but to let you know also that not all the details are worked out. Unum did a premium increase on PEB, Public Employee Benefit Board, was it 2016 or something like that? And we did the contingency offering, and it actually worked out very smooth, but they also did it in the middle of the plan year, not during open enrollment, because their renewal contract is different than OEB's. So more to come on that. Debbie, are there any questions coming up with that?
Linda, we're having more questions on salaries and perm files and when to load those. So I'm not sure when you want to address that.
Do you want to talk? That's your expertise. Do you want to talk on that?
Well, a lot of the questions are coming through is how to update the salaries. Is it best to use the perm file? Our guidelines is as soon as you know what the salaries are for the upcoming plan year, go ahead and get those into the system. The reason for that is, like Linda was saying, the premiums will, it's based on premiums, it gets sent to the carriers. But also if you show premiums in the member module, the employee will see the correct amount for those optional plans. If you're having some issues with the perm file, please reach out to the benefits staff. They will forward that on to Jackie or myself, and we can help you get that submitted. So once you submit those files, check the next day to see if there were errors, if it processed. Very important to follow up the next day on that to make sure everything went through correctly. And then there's some other questions on what if we're currently into negotiations and the salaries haven't been completed yet. Now, Linda, what I replied was, once you know the salaries and if negotiations go past open enrollment and we need to retro back, reach out to OEB and we can assist them. Is that still the process that we're doing?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think you want to get into the system and put in potential salaries. We want actual data, actual true data in the system.
Yes, right. So that's some of the questions on the salaries. There is one on the UNUM. Do we know if UNUM long-term care plans with inflations already enrolled in are frozen at the rates enrolled with? That's how it was marketed. I'm going to leave that for you to answer.
What you're frozen, you're not frozen in the premium, you're frozen in the age. So there's a difference when you're talking about UNUM. When you go to enroll, and let's say that you enrolled in UNUM when you were 35 years old, then the premium that's attached to that 35-year-old age stays with you unless you increase your plan. It doesn't mean that the premium doesn't change. So I hope that's clear. All right.
Okay,
all right.
that's good for now. Thanks, Linda.
Okay, thanks. All right, Sarah, next slide. Deductions for short-term and long-term disability. This is just a reminder to withhold voluntary short-term and long-term disability premiums post-tax, not pre-tax. If you withhold the premiums pre-tax, and then you have a member that needs to use short-term or long-term disability, the standard will tax their benefit. And that means when they're out on medical leave or whatever it is, their take-home pay from the standard is less. And it's already less anyways because of the benefit. So if you do it pre-tax, then the 2/3 that they're going to take home is also going to be taxed, which gives them less money. So just a reminder to withhold the short-term and long-term disability that's voluntary post-tax and not pre-tax. All right, next slide. Mass lockouts. If your entity wants to close open enrollment earlier than September 15th, you are going to have to go in and do a mass lockout. And here's, I guess, what you need to do if you can't just, well, you can just lock out an employment group. Like maybe you just want to lock out your license, but you don't want to lock out the admin and the classified. If that's how you want to do it, then you will have to lock out all of the licensed manually. But most entities lock out the whole employment group, like everybody, the whole pool. So you would go to security setup, and I've got stuff hiding this, so I have to close this down. So security setup, mass lock, and the reason would be the open enrollment deadline and the dates you want members to be locked out of. And then also just make sure you communicate that with OEB, you know, like the night before, like, oh, as of tomorrow or as of tonight, we are going to be locked down. And then your members will be locked out of the member module. They won't be able to get in and complete open enrollment. They're going to have to come to you at that point. All right, next slide. Security. You all can reset passwords for your employees. Just a few simple steps. You would do the security setup, the administrator reset password twice, and then click save. And member management section, you can go to view modify members and reset the password. We will not give subscriber information to spouses or domestic partners or their children or their students if they call. Yes, we have had students call in for staff. We don't give any of that information out. OEB will not do enrollments over the phone. So if somebody tells you, oh, I did my enrollment over the phone, no, we did not. We do not do enrollments over the phone. We will not change addresses, subscriber, or dependent information, especially during open enrollment time. We want them to log into the member module and to do that, or they go through you all to do that. Because we also know that you might have payroll systems to update and things like that. So we don't want to get in and touch your employee data. That's basically up to the member and for you all to do. All right, next slide. Don't do enrollments. I can't stress this enough. We have seen in the years that we've been doing enrollments, we have seen where you've got your computer up at your desk in your office and somebody comes and sits down on the other side of your desk and says, okay, here's what I want to enroll in. I want this medical plan, this dental plan, this vision plan. And you sit in the admin module and you do their enrollments for them. You guys have a great conversation. You share a cup of coffee and they're like, thank you very much. See you next year. And then something happens in the middle of the plan year where little Susie got left off the dental plan, or you forgot to enroll them in the right dental plan. You put them in Delta Dental versus Willamette Dental, and then they file an appeal. And then we come back to you all because you're the benefit administrator, because we see your username attached to the enrollment. You know, hey, Debbie Radish, tell me about this enrollment that you did. And can we please see their paper enrollment form that you used to do this enrollment? And you're like, well, I don't have a paper enrollment form because they were sitting opposite my desk. So I can't stress enough, do not do enrollments for your membership. If you're having an open computer lab, make sure that people are logging in with their own username or password. If they come into your office and they want assistance doing enrollment, have them fill out an open enrollment form, sign it, date it, and turn it into you. And then keep this documentation. You know, throw it in their employee file, or maybe you have a folder for the plan year of so-and-so doing open enrollments, or they email you. We do have a lot of entities that get an email from somebody. I want to keep this, I want to do this, I want to do that. And they accept those, and we're okay with that, but we might come back and say, okay, where is the email thread of when Susie wanted to enroll in these plans? We process a tremendous amount of appeals every year. Lynn, who just retired, who might be back to help us this open enrollment, and Angela, who has taken over doing the appeals. It's, you know, we depend on you all to kind of hold on to this documentation so that if we do need it, we can come back and ask you for it. So it's very important just to hold on to the documentation and to not do enrollments for membership unless you have documentation exactly what they want. Okay, next slide. Delta Dental exclusive PPO and the incentive PPO. So we do have 2 Delta Dental plans that have the PPO next to them. So this is the Delta Dental Premier Network and the Premier Provider Network. This this is a more narrow network than the Premier. So not as many dentists participate in the PPO network as in the Premier Network. There is no out-of-network coverage. Let me repeat that. If a member selects the PPO dental plans, one of the 2, there is no out-of-network coverage. So if their dentist that they've been going to for the last 20 years is not part of that PPO network, and they go see their dentist, and the dentist is like, oh, have there been any changes from last year? No, I'm still with Delta Dental. Well, you are still with Delta Dental, but you switched networks. You switched from the Premier Network to the PPO network. So let's just say their dentist that they've been going to for the last 20 years does all this dental work on them, and then they try to run the claim through MODA, and MODA's like, you know, this dentist isn't part of the PPO network. Then the dentist is going to send the member a huge bill for all of the work that they just had done. So again, the PPO network is smaller, it's more narrow than the Premier Network. It's very important for membership that switches from a Premier plan to the PPO plan understands this. And MODA is very good about sending out letters to all of these members the first week of October. And sometimes these letters even hit the last week of September that says, hey, you are in the PPO dental plan. You might want to check and make sure that your dentist is part of this network. Unfortunately, we see a lot of members that take these letters and throw them in the trash can and they don't even open them. If they file an appeal by December 31st, we will switch them effective October 1st back into the dental plan that they want. But if they don't catch this until January 1st or after, we will not switch them because we have this in our literature. They receive letters from MODA. So it's just really important that people understand the difference between the exclusive PPO plan and the premier networks. All right, next slide. Kaiser rules. We've had these rules since the beginning of time. So in order for a member to enroll in Kaiser Vision, they must also have the Kaiser medical plan. And I'm going to give you this scenario. Let's say that I have myself and my husband, Dean, enrolled in Kaiser Medical. That means that I can enroll myself and my husband, Dean, in the Kaiser Vision plan. But let's say that my two stepchildren, Alandra and Corbin, I do not have them enrolled in Kaiser Medical. I cannot enroll Corbin and Alandra in the Kaiser Vision. They have to be enrolled in the medical in order to also be enrolled in the Kaiser Vision. Now, we also have scenarios where, let's say that Dean and I both work for the same school district, and I want to pick up the Kaiser Medical with my contribution, and Dean wants to cover the Kaiser Vision with his contribution. It can't happen that way. The subscriber or the employee that has the Kaiser Medical also, if you want Kaiser Vision, also has to be the one that picks the Kaiser Vision plan. You don't have to pick Kaiser Vision. You can do a VSP Vision plan or a MODA Vision plan, but if you want Kaiser Vision, those are the rules. Subscribers can enroll in Kaiser Dental without the Kaiser Medical. So the dental plan is independent of the Kaiser Medical plan, but the Vision plan is dependent upon the medical plan. All right, Debbie, let's pause for a little bit with any questions.
So one of the questions is, will staff be able to choose a Kaiser Vision and a MODA health plan without receiving a warning that this cannot be done? So the member will get that warning in the member module. It'll say, but it's only if they click the continue button to move forward, it'll tell them that they cannot do that. So they won't be able to save their enrollments trying to do the different ones. Then there's a question, will retirees and early retirees need to do anything special? So Linda, I will let you take care of that one.
Retirees and early retirees, well, if I'll pause for a minute and talk about retirees, and I'll take you through a couple of scenarios. Let's say that this upcoming open enrollment is my last open enrollment as an active member, and I'm getting ready to retire on January 1st. Okay, you guys with me? I'm still an active employee. When I do open enrollment in August, it's my last open enrollment as an active employee. I'm retiring January 1st. I better pick the coverages and the dependents that I want during this upcoming open enrollment. For example, let's say that I don't have a dental plan right now, but I'm going to want to have dental when I retire. Then I need to make sure that I enroll in a dental plan effective October 1st. Because when I go into retirement, I cannot add basically a line of coverage unless I had it as an active employee. Let's say that right now I don't have my husband on my plans. then I better add him to my plans during this open enrollment, because once I become an early retiree on January 1st, I cannot add my husband unless I have a qualified status change, which allows me to add him. Once an early retiree, let's say that here's another scenario. I'm currently an early retiree. And I have medical, dental, and vision. I have all the dependents covered that I want to have covered. I have a retiree life plan that's great. But I come in during this open enrollment and I'm like, you know what? Dean and I don't need to have glasses this next plan year. So I'm going to drop the vision plan because it's going to save me some premium dollars to not pay vision every month. But then I'll add it back in another plan year or two when we do need to get a new pair of glasses. As an early retiree, once you drop a plan, so if you drop that vision plan, you will not be able to add it back in future open enrollments. If you're an early retiree and you drop a dependent during open enrollment, you will not be able to add them back at future open enrollment times. If you're an early retiree and you have so much life insurance, you can decrease it during open enrollment, but you will never be able to increase it. So early retirees and spurs, they have a whole new set of rules that actives don't have. Also, as an early retiree or a spur, once you become Medicare eligible due to age or disability, regardless of whether you enroll in Medicare or not, you are no longer eligible for the OEB medical and vision plans. You might be eligible for the dental plan if your entity has selected to allow dental only for Medicare eligible members. What happens, we've seen it happen in the past, is an early retiree or a spur has not fully disclosed accurately their Medicare eligibility to us. Now, obviously, when a person turns 65, it's a no-brainer. We know that they're Medicare eligible, but it's these people that are younger than age 65 that we don't have a clue. We don't know that you have a disability that makes you Medicare eligible. It is your duty to report that. And that's why we blank out all those Medicare answers that are no during the rollover, because we want the member to answer it each and every open enrollment. I have seen members answer this as a no when it should have been answered as a yes. And what happens is if the carriers run reports with CMS, which they do, and they discover that you are truly Medicare eligible and you have been for the last 6 months, I have seen the carriers go back and deny every claim that you have incurred over the last 6 months because you shouldn't have even been eligible for the OEB medical plan. And then that puts the burden of those claims on that member that inaccurately listed themselves as a no or failed to report that they were now Medicare eligible. So, and it doesn't mean I'm Medicare eligible and enrolled in a Medicare plan, it means I'm Medicare eligible due to age or disability, regardless of whether I've enrolled in a Medicare plan, supplement, or whatever. So that's one reason why we have done so many mandatory open enrollments, is because I have seen this affect membership in a very, very negative way if they have failed to report this accurately. And we don't want to see that happen. And so that's why, you know, next to the Medicare box, we have a pretty thorough description of what this means. And that's why we want people to, we force them to answer it every open enrollment. So I probably have talked too much about that, but that's okay. We can't talk enough about that. All right, Debbie, any other questions?
Well, that opened up a lot of questions on retirees. Do we want to come back to that, or do we want to address some of them now?
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
One of, yeah. Let's see. If a retiree's dependent experiences a QSC event, can they add the dependent to their plan?
And we allow that. We have a QSC matrix. So if you go out to our website, www.oebinfo.com, and you go under the section for members, there's the QSC matrix. And on that matrix, it lists what early retirees can do. And I think that that's on the right-hand column. So look at the matrix, and that will tell you what qualified status changes would allow early retirees and SPRS to add or remove members, or to add or remove plans.
Okay, so another question to follow up kind of with that, Linda, isn't retirement a qualified event which allows changes to medical, dental, and vision?
We do allow that, don't we, Debbie? If they're losing, so you help me with this one, Debbie, because I'm going off my memory. So if I'm an active employee and I'm receiving a contribution of $1,400 a month, and then I become an early retiree and I'm receiving a stipend, but my stipend is $500 a month, then we do allow that as a qualified status change, where they can go in and maybe they pick a less expensive medical, dental, or vision plan, right? Or they can drop a plan, or they can drop a dependent. I'm correct on that, right, Debbie?
Right. I'm looking at the matrix, and we do allow that, like you say, if they're losing part of the contribution or the stipend. Yes. I know I had to go look at the QSC matrix. For questions like this, it's always good to go look at our QSC matrix that's on our webpage. There's a lot of them in there, a lot of what they can and can't do. And then if you're still unsure, just reach out to the benefits staff. They can help you all.
And you'd be surprised how often we go to that matrix.
Yep. Okay, so is this the same for employee spouses? Once they age, once they are eligible for Medicare, they are no longer eligible for OEB coverage under the employee. Now that's, and I'll let you answer that, but that's only if they're retirees and they become Medicare eligible. So I'm gonna let you kind of explain that one.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about active employees first, okay? Active employees that have a domestic partner. Active employees that have a domestic partner, and the domestic partner becomes Medicare eligible. Not their spouse, not their children, active employees with a domestic partner. If that domestic partner becomes Medicare eligible, then the OEB plan becomes secondary and Medicare becomes primary. And that is not an OEB rule, that is a federal rule. So that's active with a DP and the DP becomes Medicare eligible. If you're an early retiree or a spur and your spouse becomes Medicare eligible, then that spouse is no longer eligible for the OEB plans. Again, they might be eligible for the dental only if your school district has selected the dental only, but the medical and the vision have to go. If they have a child that becomes Medicare eligible, and obviously that would be due to disability, not age, then that child needs to come off the OEB plans. So I hope that answers that question.
Right, here's another. If a retiree turns 65 and are eligible for Medicare, what happens to their dependents coverage?
This is where we promote the spouse. We have a promotion, an automated process in the system. So if you're the subscriber, the early retiree, and they become Medicare eligible, our system will automatically term that subscriber and it will promote the spouse. So the spouse now becomes the subscriber. And we automatically enroll them back into the plans, Debbie, and they would have to contact the entity or OEB if they don't want to continue on with the coverage, correct?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
And then another one is, let's see, hold on. There's a lot coming in, so let me get back to some of these. If a person is enrolled in Medicare Part A only at age 65, but doesn't enroll in Medicare Part B because they do not need to, because they still have active employment and still with OEB, is that okay?
I'm not going to answer that question, but I am going to answer it this way. We don't advise on Medicare. So they need to go talk to Medicare about that because there are some penalties if people do not enroll in certain plans when they are Medicare eligible. What we can tell you is if you're Medicare eligible and you're an active employee, then your OEB coverage is primary. But regardless of what you choose to enroll with Medicare, that's between you and Medicare. So I hope that answers that question without answering that question.
And let's go over one more. What happens if an early retiree who becomes Medicare eligible comes back to work full time? Can that person get medical, dental, and vision coverage?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're an early retiree and you're Medicare eligible, and so you lose your early retiree OEB coverage, but then you come back to work as an active employee, then you're an active employee. And as an active employee, we don't necessarily care that you're Medicare eligible. We do care if your domestic partner is Medicare eligible, and we still want you to report it accurately, but you can work as an active employee under the active segment and be Medicare eligible at the same time, and your OEB plan will be primary. All right.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I think
all right.
All
All right, Sarah, let's move on from Kaiser rules. I think we're on reinstatement next. Reinstatement. So we do have a reinstatement process in the OEB system, and this is for employees that come back to work for the same entity within a 6-month period. What usually happens is you'll go in and put that person in as a new hire, but the system is smart enough to see, oh, this is the same entity. We're going to turn this new hire QSC into a reinstatement QSC. you as the admin, you need to complete the qualified status change in my OEB. The employee cannot go into the member module and do this. So if you see that new hire QSC turn into a reinstatement, you need to carry the process all the way through in the MyOEB admin module. An employee that goes away for 6 months and returns, they can have a qualified status change that happened during that 6-month period. Maybe there's a birth or a death or a marriage or a divorce or something that's happened. So once that reinstatement happens and you save that reinstatement QSC, you can go in and do a correcting processing errors QSC and remove that spouse or add a spouse. And update their enrollment accordingly to what their qualified status change was that happened over the previous 6 months. All right, next slide. OEB timelines. So this basically, this is a rolling calendar. This is a seasonal calendar with OEB. It happens like this every plan year. Late April or early May, this is where the board votes on the plan design changes and then the rates get set. Usually that very first week of May, the premiums are set and released out on our website. I've never really seen the rates released earlier than May 1st. A lot of people ask us questions. What are the premiums going to look like for next plan year? Because we're doing our budget. What's the premium increases going to be? OEB is bound by law that we cannot have greater than an overall 3.4% rate increase. This does not include taxes or special fees that sometimes get imposed, but it means overall our premiums do not go up greater than 3.4%. Now, what this means is if our vision plans have 0 premium increase, then you might see a medical plan that goes up 9%, but another medical plan that only goes up 2%. But the medical, dental, and vision, the overall rate increase will not be greater than 3.4%. So that's what we can tell you about budgeting a little bit. Mid-May through mid-June, which is what we're just about finished with, is EE plan management and our insurance committee meetings. I'm going to stress, Carrie's probably just about finished working with all of you right now. Verify your plan choices that you've made. Make sure that you have picked the correct plans that your insurance committee wanted you to select, for the school district or the local government or the community college, and that you have selected the correct rate structure. If you miss something, then all of the mailings that go out to your membership will be wrong. And then if you miss it and open enrollment starts and you're like, oh no, I picked the composite rate structure and I should have picked the tiered rate structure, then we will lock your entire school district out of the system while we are busy switching plans around. And that makes for angry members when it's open enrollment and nobody can get into the system because we're trying to get the right plans in the system for you. So, you can send Carrie an extra email, or you can get into the system yourself and kind of look at the plan offerings off of a report. But just verify what you sent back to Carrie and that the offerings are exactly correct, because Right around July 4th, the week after July 4th, is when the first data pull is done for all of the open enrollment mailings. So that's kind of the magic date, is the 4th of July. Okay, next slide. The week of July 4th, OEBB sends the Christmas in July report to all the carriers. We started calling it the Christmas in July report in 2008 because that was our very first plan year. Here's a little bit of history for you. It was our very first plan year, and the carriers were so excited to see what the plan choices were for all of the school districts in the state. So we affectionately called the report the Christmas in July report. So after July 4th, data for the pre-open enrollment mailing is pulled. So make sure prior to vacationing on July 4th that you have the new hires in the system and the terminations done in the best of your ability, the best of your knowledge. Make sure your employees are in the right groups. So if somebody's moving from the licensed group to the administrator group, you know, make sure that that change of employment is done prior to the 4th of July. To the best of your ability, are addresses correct in the system? And make sure that your plan selections are correct, because all of this data gets pulled, it gets extracted out of the system, and this becomes our open enrollment mailing. So if it's wrong, it's wrong. The week of July 21st, it's a mail drop for the heads up postcard. That's just the heads up, open enrollment's coming. The week of July 28th is our mail drop for the pre-open enrollment mailing, plus an email sent to the members. Okay, next slide. August 15th to September 15th, it's open enrollment. It's crazy time. It's open enrollment webinars. Some of you that have been around that are very seasoned probably remember that some of us traveled around the state the whole open enrollment time period, and we did live open enrollment meetings. And Debbie and I know this, we'd be up at 3 a.m. and on the road, and you'd get home at midnight, and then you'd get up and do it again the next day. It was just a crazy time. September 16th through September 30th, this is your opportunity to do some open enrollment cleanup. We are so generous that we give you 2 weeks to do this. Not our fault. This is the way the Senate bill and the state legislature voted on this time frame. But so we have this 2-week window to do our open enrollment cleanup. Last batches of post OE mailings are done. So for membership that didn't have an email in the system, we will give them a hard copy of, you know, hey, you did open enrollment, great, great, great. If we have people that never entered the system that have active employment segments in the system, we give them basically a missing in action hard copy letter, like, hey, we see that you missed open enrollment, and, you know, plan year's going to start October 1st. More than not, these are people that you forgot to term in the system. It's not people that actually forgot to do open enrollment. It's people that didn't get termed in the system. So we hear from them saying, I haven't worked for my school district for 3 months or something like that. The Delta Dental, the PPO network mailing goes out. And it usually hits around the very end of September, the first couple days of October. Okay, next slide. October 1st, the new plan year starts. October 1st through the 31st, you can still fix open enrollment issues with a qualified status change. So September 16th through September 30th. If a member comes to you and they forgot to do open enrollment, you'll still have the open enrollment segments in the system where you don't need to do a qualified status change. You can get in and alter their enrollments with a form or a communication. But once October 1st hits, then you're going to have to use the correcting processing errors QSC. And we do ask that if you fix it, you have to take it back to October 1st because it's an open enrollment so it needs to go back to October 1st. And we do ask that you fix this at your level, that you don't send it to OEB. November 1st through December 31st. This is when OEB starts to receive appeal forms. Because once November 1st hits, you guys are not able to fix something back to October 1st, or it's an open enrollment change and 31 days have passed. So we want you to have it come to us as an appeal. Through December 31st, OEB is very lenient with open enrollment appeals. We honor just about anything that comes in that's an open enrollment issue. Once January 1st hits, that's our line in the sand. We still accept appeals. We take appeals all year long, but we are done with open enrollment corrections. October, November, December, 3 months have passed. 3 months possibly for some of the school districts. 4 months of paychecks have come in, and so we're done with open enrollment corrections and appeals. It doesn't mean that we don't get open enrollment appeals in. We get them all year long, but we are not as lacy. We use leather and lace in our office, and we're not feeling as lacy about open enrollment appeals after January 1st. All right, next slide. Sarah, do you want to, or Sarah, can you talk? Sarah might not be able to talk, so I will talk about this. OEBinfo.com, this is our state website. You can look all the insurance committee information, plan options, our rates, our deep dive webinar registration links, video presentation slides, and brochures are all under the insurance committee information link. Administrator resources have open enrollment for the member and then the communication schedule. So this has all of the data pull dates, the distribution dates, and the material descriptions for what you need for open enrollment. Okay, next slide. I'm going to pause there. Do we have any questions coming in?
Linda, we have a few that kind of goes back to reinstatement. Do we have time to answer those here or not?
Sure, let's go ahead and talk.
Is there a reason that reinstated employees can't enroll themselves? It's rather normal that a temporary position may end in the spring and then get rehired in a different position. They're saying it's just added work for us that they should be able to do. So can we talk a little bit about how that reinstatement works and why they cannot just re-enroll?
Well, one of the reasons why we did the reinstate was because of the 12-month wait. So when OEB first started, we had the 12-month wait on the dental and vision plans. And we had some school districts that had employees that did not pick a dental or vision plan. And they would go in and they would terminate the employee on September 27th. and then they would hire them back a day later so that they would not have a 12-month wait on the dental and vision plan. And then we developed the reinstatement because the reinstatement basically put them back into the plans that they had when they left. And that's one of the reasons why the reinstate is there. Debbie, what do you have to say about any of this?
That's pretty much the reason why we did that. We don't have the 12-month wait no longer, so,
Yeah,
but it's still out.
It also brings back, does it bring back their GI on their life plans and their dental incentives also?
Yes, on the GI, yes. The incentive, I'd have to double check on that.
Yeah. So
my retirement brain is kind of taking over on that piece.
Let us look at this a little bit more in depth, because I'm pretty sure it also brings back now their dental incentive and their GI amounts. But let us explore this. It might be something that we can get rid of the reinstate. But let us look at this. Jackie is off on vacation this week, so let us look at this a little bit more in depth. I can't say it's not going to go away before open enrollment, but maybe sometime into the next plan year, if we see that it's not needed anymore, then maybe we will look and see at what we can do about this.
Okay, that sounds good. We have a couple questions regarding that reinstatement, so we'll just get back to you after this meeting.
Okay. All right. Qualified status changes. Our QSCs. Again, this is kind of where you go. It's oebinfo.com. This is our state website. That QSC matrix out there, that is your guide. That is your guide for qualified status changes. What you can do, what you can't do, and the list of the mid-year events that are allowable. And then our OAR, Oregon Administrative Rule, that supports that is our Division 40. All right, next slide. Qualified status changes. My employee is experiencing a QSC during open enrollment. Do I really need to do anything? Yes, yes, and yes. If you have an employee that is getting married, we see this one quite often. I have an employee that got married over the summer break. They come back and it's open enrollment. Can I just have them add their spouse during open enrollment, or do I need to do a qualified status change? You need to do the qualified status change if they want the guarantee issuance for life insurance on the spouse. If you just let them add that person during open enrollment and then they try to add the spouse partner optional life plan, they will not receive the guarantee issuance. So that's really one reason why you want to do that. Also, well, newborns are now covered the first 30 days without a life event, but beyond that 30 days, babies need to be added to the system. It doesn't necessarily have to be a QSC if it falls perfectly in line with the plan year, but if it doesn't fall perfectly in line with the plan year, then they have to get added in with a qualified status change. So there's lots of reasons why you want to make sure for your people getting married or having babies over the summertime or getting divorced. over the summertime, that you actually use a qualified status change and you add them or remove them at the appropriate time. All right, next slide. The below QSCs must be completed by you all, the admin. So a change of employment. If you're moving a lot of people from active to early retiree, you need to actually complete that QSC in the system. If you just move them from active to early retiree and then they try to get in and do open enrollment, the system's not going to let them do open enrollment because it's going to see a pending qualified status change, whether it's a change of employment or a correcting processing errors. And they're going to just kind of get like a frozen screen in the member module. And they're going to be like, the system's broke, I can't do anything. Well, no, it's actually that your admin person has an active QSC on you and they need to finish it up on their side. And once you finish it up on your side, then they're able to get in and do open enrollment. All right, next slide. What about qualified status changes from September 16th to the 30th and October 1st? So again, September 16th through the 30th, if it's just an open enrollment correction, you don't need a qualified status change. You're going to use those open enrollment links because the admin module is still in open enrollment mode. And you're going to do the open enrollment changes in the admin module with a form from the member. If it's October 1st through the 31st, you're going to use a correcting processing errors QSC if it's an open enrollment change, and you're going to make it effective October 1st. If anything falls outside of an open enrollment change, then you use the qualified status change that goes with what happened to the member. All right, next slide. What happens after October 31st? So members should not be switching, adding, or removing plans without a qualified status change that allows them to do this. So I can't come to you on December 1st and say, yeah, I don't really like my Kaiser plan. I want to switch over to Moda. And you're like, okay, Linda, we're going to do a correcting processing errors QSC, and we're going to switch you from Kaiser to Moda in the middle of the plan year without a qualified status change. That's a huge no-no. Again, you go back to the matrix. If it's not on the matrix or you can't verify it with the member, then you can get a hold of us and we will assist you or ask the member for documentation. But very, very important that you don't just allow non-qualifying events to happen outside of the time frame. If we were to ever be audited, or your entity to be audited, and it was to discover that you were doing non-qualified, qualified status changes, you could lose your pre-tax standing on being able to offer the plans at a pre-tax rate. So that's why sometimes we're sticklers a little bit and we ask for extra documentation, and that's why, because we want to make sure that there's really something going on with the membership and it's timely. So also on that on the QSC matrix, there's timelines. Members have certain timelines in which to report something to you. And if they fall outside of that timeline, then they've missed that mid-year event. They've missed that qualified status change. Members should not be adding or dropping dependents without a QSC that allows this action. Members should inform you within 31 days of an event for you to process their QSC. They have 60 days for the gain of a child through birth or adoption. And make sure that you use a mid-year change form or an email thread when processing a qualified status change for a member. So again, just if you're in doubt, shoot us an email, and staff is more than willing to answer questions and to help you out with the qualified status changes. All right, our homepage. If you've been into the My OEB admin module, you'll notice on the homepage there's so many different destinations. There's the pending action section that will let you know that you have so many people with unsaved enrollments or unsaved QSCs. And you can click on that and it will take you to a list of those people. So kind of pay attention to those pending actions. Next slide. So you have unsaved QSCs from the member module and unsaved QSC here area. So this presentation will be available to you, so you can come back and look at this slide. But if you're in doubt, just go into the member or the admin module and click on those links, and it will let you see if you have people that are you know, hanging out in some unsaved form in the system. Okay, next slide. You have people that have unsaved QSCs from the member module. These will give you a list of people that haven't done the final save in the member module. You know, maybe they've gone through most of the screens, but they didn't do that final save. Pending termination approval. So if you've termed people but you haven't processed them on the TAP page, then you know you'll have a list of people there. Payroll interface rejections. If you've sent a perm file in through the admin module and you have some rejections, these will be showing up the next day that you have some perm file rejections. Pending affidavits. So if you have people that are want to add a DP and they haven't turned in their affidavit form to you, you're going to have a list of those. And so we do ask, I think Carrie Cameron is pretty good about following up with people like, hey, have you gone and picked up all of your affidavits yet? So she's pretty good about doing that. Next slide. We have a lot of how-to guides. So if you kind of like, okay, how do I change a domestic partner to a spouse? We get that question all the time. So a person has a domestic partner and they just got married. How do I switch them over to a spouse? There's actually a helper guide under the how-to guides for My OEB on how to do that. So kind of get in there and take a look. I think this page, it's not utilized as much as it could be. So, and Debbie and Jackie are always adding to it. Okay, next slide. Popular destinations. These are just links to Benefit Help Solutions, Canopy EAP, Kaiser Moda, the member module, our state website, the standard, medical history for the standard, Unum, VSP, and Willamette Dental. Okay. Other OEB resources. Here's our 888 number. Here's that QSC detailed matrix guide, security access and termination form. Our rules, our OARs, just our forms in general. Plan rates and domestic partner imputed values, the perm file template, salary address update file template, and the other one with delete row 2. So Debbie, I'm not sure what that is, but you probably know. All right, next slide. How do OEB appeals work? So first off, our Division 80 Oregon Administrative Rule is really what talks a lot about the process of how the appeals work. OEB has 3 levels of appeal, a first, a second, and a third. The first level, it's usually decided in-house with feedback from you all. You are the entity, the member, and the carriers. So a member will file an appeal with OEB. They'll use the OEB appeal form. We really like them to give us as much information as possible. And we might contact the carrier to see, did they use the plans? You know, did you get a phone call from this member? And we might go back to you all. You know, do you have an email thread from this member? Do you have a form from this member? You know, what open enrollment literature did you give them, you know, for open enrollment? Probably most of you have worked with Angela or Lynn on appeals, so you kind of know how that goes. If the first level is approved, then the appeal process is closed. If the first level is denied, then the member has the option of filing a second level appeal. Again, it is decided in-house with feedback from the entity, the member, and the carriers. Usually, if we get a second level appeal in, I'm usually getting a call from Angela. Hey, Linda, we got a second level appeal in. You know, here's what it looks like. And quite honestly, when we get a second level, we are definitely probably hitting all areas. We're probably going to the carrier to see if the member has used the plan. Does the carrier have any recorded telephone calls with the members? We're going back to you. You know, did you have conversations with the members? Did you have forms? You know, have they received any paychecks? What was the deduction? We're hoping that when a member files a second level appeal, that they're giving us some additional information, you know, maybe something outside of what they gave us for the first level. So they're building, they're giving us a little bit more information. If the second level is approved, then the appeal process stops. If it's denied, then the member does have the option of doing a third level appeal. And again, they have 30 days in between each of these processes to file the second level appeal, to file the third level. More than not, if the third level appeal comes in, we have an administrative review committee that's made up of OEB board members that looks at the appeal, and really their process is to make sure that OEB is following our rules and policies. Sometimes the third level is also decided in-house if we feel that we can approve it without taking it to the administrative review committee. But if we don't feel like we can approve it in-house, then we take it to the ARC and we let the ARC decide what they want to do. OEB appeals are mainly for eligibility issues, not for claims, but for eligibility. All right, next slide. So some rules for OEB appeals. Members need to file or to provide as much information as possible. OEB will decide about an appeal within 30 days. Sometimes a member turns an appeal in, and then the next day they're like, have you decided on my appeal yet? Chances are no. We have 30 days to make an appeal decision. Members have 30 days from that denial to lift it up to the next level of appeal. We do ask that members submit additional information with each level of appeal. Sometimes that doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that it's a denial if they don't give us additional information. Please do not have members file an appeal with OEB during the end of September and October due to missing open enrollment. We do ask that you handle this internally. Most entities, I think, just work with the membership and get members enrolled appropriately if it's an open enrollment error or missed open enrollment, and they take it back to October 1st. Some entities make it a little bit uncomfortable for members, and they do an internal appeal process just to make members sweat a little bit for missing open enrollment, but that's up to you guys. And please communicate timely with OEB when we're reviewing an appeal and we need your help, because we do have this 30-day timeline. And sometimes we are right on the cusp of that 30 days because we haven't heard back from you all. So make sure that you respond appropriately and timely with Angela. Okay, next slide. Carrier appeals. Carriers have a 2-level internal appeal process, and this is for claims. These are for claims and procedures. Excuse me. Members have 180 days from the date of an adverse benefit decision determination to submit an initial written appeal. Quite often, if it's, we see appeals like for a specific procedure or medication. It also really helps if the member has their doctor submit documentation for that appeal, because it's a claims issue. So any supporting documentation that they can get from their doctor really helps. Once the appeal, if the appeal is denied, then members have 60 days from that determination to file a second level appeal. If that second level appeal is denied, members can ask for an external review process at that point. And again, carrier appeals are mainly for claims, benefit determination. Occasionally, OEB gets CC'd when a member is filing an appeal with the carrier, and maybe it's like the second level or something, and that's okay. They will CC OEB on it, and that's not bad, because that kind of, usually those kind of come to me and I can send it to Kaiser or Moda or Willamette Dental and say, yeah, where are we at with this and what's going on? So I see that all the time. All right, next slide. Eligible dependents. Let's pause right there. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Linda, got a couple questions on domestic partnerships, so it kind of will fall in a little bit with eligible dependents. But a question that's been asked a couple times is, do members need to complete a new domestic partnership affidavit every open enrollment, or can they use the previous forms on file?
Well, I think because members are going in there and they're marking them as being eligible every year, that I don't think that you need a new affidavit every year. Because if it's for me and I'm doing an investigation, let's say that we have somebody that we hear shouldn't have had their DP on because they're really not living together anymore. I'm going to go into the member module or the admin module, and I'm going to track their movements through the system, and I'm going to see that they went in there on August 27th at 4:27 in the afternoon and marked that their DP was still eligible. So we have basically their audit trail that goes through the system, but I think I kind of leave that up to you all. I mean, if you want to require that every year your membership turns these forms in, I'm okay with that. But I don't think we necessarily need it because we do have members going in every year and verifying that that person still meets the definition of a domestic partner. Now, last year was a passive open enrollment. I mean, if you were going to, like, you know, if we ever have another passive in the future, that might be the year to do it. You know, hey, I've got 30 employees that have domestic partners. All 30 of you need to turn in a new affidavit this year. It's just a thought. All right, Debbie, any other questions?
Another one, do they need to turn in anything when they're removing their domestic partner other than the mid-year change form?
Usually just the mid-year change form. Yeah, I mean, usually just the mid-year change form. It's kind of hard to track when a domestic partnership ended. It's easier to track when a marriage has ended because you have a divorce decree. You might have gossip at your entity about when it really happened, and you know, then if you're hearing gossip that it actually ended 6 months ago, it didn't end, you know, just this last month, you can always come to OEB and we'll always find clever ways to help investigate, or have Jeremy's team with the dependent eligibility verification kind of step in and help with an investigation. But it's kind of hard to track when a domestic partnership ends, unless you get like the last 3 or 4 months of utility bills or something like that. But, you know, we can get into the weeds with all of that. All right. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right. Eligible dependents. Obviously, your biological or adopted children or your stepchildren are eligible dependents. Your spouse, your domestic partner, your child partner, or disabled dependent child. This is our, you know, pretty encompassing list of what are eligible dependents. If you want to drill down into the weeds, you can go to our Division 10 OAR. Here's probably the biggest error that we see here. And I'm going to throw this scenario out. I'm getting divorced today, June 18th. So my spouse that's on my plan should be coming off June 30th. Okay. He doesn't get to stay on until July 31st or August 31st or September 30th. He needs to come off June 30th. But what we see quite often is in the divorce decree, it says Linda Fries will provide medical coverage for her ex-husband for the period of 2 years. It doesn't mean that they get to stay on the OEB coverage. They're not eligible anymore. They will be eligible for COBRA, so I could pay the COBRA premium for them for 2 years, or I could get them a plan out on the marketplace for 2 years, but just because it's written in the divorce decree that your employee needs to cover that ex-spouse for a period of 2 years doesn't mean they get to stay on the OEB plan. Another issue that we sometimes see is my stepkids. I'm divorcing their father, but I love my stepkids like they're my own, so I want to keep them on the plans. No. If you're divorcing your spouse, then your stepkids have to get termed with that spouse. So those are probably the most common issues that we see. A child that is obviously your biological children and your stepkids are probably should be pretty easy. Kids that are adopted, they have 2 times where they have qualifying events. When the child is placed for adoption, that is a qualifying event. And if they miss that event, then when the adoption is finalized is another event. So kids that are placed for adoption, that's a qualifying event. And then when the adoption is finalized, can be a qualifying event. If they're foster kids and they're just your foster kids, but they're not placed for adoption, then they're not eligible. If your younger brother or sister comes to live with you and you don't have court-ordered legal guardianship signed by a judge, they are not eligible dependents. If your mother or father come to live with you and you're claiming them on your taxes and you're basically paying all of their bills, they are not eligible dependents. Anything that I missed, Debbie?
No.
So I see here, if the kids have been legally adopted prior to divorce, would they still need to be termed? If they are legally your children, signed by a judge, you are the legal guardian of them, then they don't need to be termed. But you can always come to us with questions about eligibility, obviously, whenever you want to. All right, next slide. Disabled dependent child. So members may be able to add a disabled dependent to their plan. The dependents qualify if a medical provider confirms the disability before age 26. So prior to them turning age 26, and the dependent has not had a break in coverage, and one of the following is true. So 1, 2, 3, the member claims the dependent on their federal tax return, or the member has court-ordered legal guardianship, or the disabled dependent files their own tax return. In this case, their adjusted gross income cannot exceed 150% of the federal poverty level. So they have to be confirmed to have a disability prior to turning age 26. They have to have continuous coverage, no break in coverage. And then one of the following 3 below. And when we're looking at court-ordered legal guardianship, we want it to say beyond age, 26 or beyond age 18. When you have court-ordered legal guardianship of a child, in most circumstances, that goes up to age 18. because at age 18, the child is an adult. So if you have to talk to some of your employees about this, it's important that they understand that if it needs to go beyond age 18, that this is in the court judgment. So, but we don't see a lot of that. Okay, next slide. Early retirees. We talked a lot about early retirees, so I'm not going to go back into this, but one thing that we didn't talk about is anybody that you're turning into an early retiree. So they're going from active to early retiree. They're also going to get COBRA paperwork from Benefit Help Solutions. This is the law. A lot of people are like, can you not do that? We don't like that. Nope, we have to do it. It's the law. So make sure that you're talking to your early retirees that you're going to get COBRA paperwork, but you probably don't want to take COBRA. You want to do your early retirement, benefits through us, your employer. All right, next slide. The SPURS. So self-pay early retirees or SPURS, they still follow the same rules as regular early retirees. We do really, 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 really love you when you transfer these at least 2 months prior to them becoming a SPUR. This allows us to get paperwork done and in place, and ACH paperwork in place. So by the time we have to start going into their checking account and pulling out funds, everybody's had enough time to plan, and there's not an interruption in their coverage. SPURS pay directly to OEB. OEB manages this group, but this group has to be completely self-pay. This means they don't receive any contributions from the employer whatsoever. They don't receive checks from you. That they are 100% on their own. You are done with them. You have no financial connections with that group anymore. Then you can transfer them to OEB for management. All right, next slide. COBRA, this is our Division 50 OAR. Your responsibility is to make sure that you term employees and dependents timely. Spouses that are termed after age 55 do get more COBRA time. They are able to stay on COBRA until they reach Medicare eligibility. And that's a federal rule. Becoming Medicare eligible during COBRA, what happens? If you become Medicare eligible while you're on COBRA, then you lose COBRA eligibility. You will totally lose the ability to have COBRA. But again, it's up to you to communicate to Benefit Help Solutions that you have now become Medicare eligible if you're younger than age 65. What do I do with employees that are out on extended leave? We get this all the time. I have an employee that is going to be out on extended leave. They have used up all of their paid leave Oregon. They've used up all of their sick leave, their vacation leave. They are just done. We don't have any more money to pay them. But we really like them, and they're really sick, and we want to keep them on as an active employee. If they are not receiving a paycheck from you and they have used up all of their leave, you have to push them over to COBRA. You need to term them out of the My OEB system as an active employee with you, and you need to push them to COBRA so that they are in the correct employment category. Now, if you still want to continue paying their COBRA coverage, you are more than welcome to do that. You can get a hold of Benefit Help Solutions and you can set up a contract with BHS to pay their COBRA for the next 18 months. That is fine. But if they are really not working and there's no more pay for them to get, they need to be pushed to COBRA because that is the appropriate employment group for them. You cannot keep them active in the system. Even if you have a contract that you guys wrote up, especially for this one person, that says we're going to keep them active for the next 12 months, even though they really quit working. No, they need to go to COBRA and you guys work with BHS on paying their COBRA premiums if that's what you want to do. But it's very important that you put them in the right active COBRA, early retiree, or SPUR group so that their benefits get paid appropriately. What happens to dependents dropped during open enrollment? If somebody got dropped during open enrollment and they feel that they got dropped inappropriately, that it was really a qualified status change, they can contact Benefit Help Solutions and say, yeah, I know that my ex-husband dropped me. You know, he did open enrollment on September the 5th. Our divorce was final on September the 3rd. My benefits should end September 30th, but I wasn't really an open enrollment drop. I'm a divorce drop, so I should be COBRA eligible. So people that are dropped inappropriately can get a hold of Benefit Help Solutions and they can ask for COBRA rights. And we do get a few of those every year that do that, and that's fine. COBRA rates are going to be on par, about 2% higher than regular rates. And Benefit Help Solutions, or BHS, they manage our COBRA, and they have managed our COBRA since 2008. Okay, next slide. Dependent eligibility verification, or our DEV. This is our Division 80 OAR. OEB will conduct a DEV for your entity. I'm pretty sure Jeremy's team has a DEV schedule out there. American Fidelity does do some of these reviews. Ineligible dependents come off at the end of the DEV review. OEB will lock these dependents that come off so that members can't add them back unless they provide documentation. And members do have 60 days to appeal once a dependent has dropped off to recover the coverage that was lost without having a lapse in coverage. So it's important that members kind of pay attention to the DEV mailings, and the DEV team usually goes out after open enrollment, and for anybody that adds new dependents during open enrollment, they probably, I'm pretty sure they do a DEV review of any of those newly added members, but they also pick sporadically entities to do full DEVs on. So Jeremy's team can work with you if you have an upcoming DEV. We don't do them around open enrollment. We kind of stop them around the June time frame, and we don't start them back up again until after open enrollment. Okay, next slide. We are like right at time here. Reconciliation and invoicing. This is our Division 80 OAR. It is your responsibility to reconcile your monthly invoice monthly. We give grace back as far as 45 days, but not usually beyond 45 days. So if you're like, oh my gosh, this person should have been terminated 5 months ago, you might only get 45 days, so a month, maybe 2 months of premiums back, but you won't get anything beyond that time. Overpayments and underpayments are usually added to the next monthly invoice. All right. And Rosie is our contact information for financial services. And I'm sure a lot of you know how to get a hold of Rosie. And sensitive data, this is our Division 60 OAR. We do collect Social Security numbers in our system for every subscriber, but these are encrypted in my OEB. Debbie and I can't even see the Social Security numbers. So if a member has the wrong Social Security number and we need to get this corrected, and it does happen, we do get members in with the wrong Social Security number. We do need to get this corrected though, because it does travel from the carrier to the IRS. Members can't log in if they don't have the correct Social Security number. But you can deposit a document into the document management portion of the admin module with Social Security corrections on it. Please do not email us Social Security corrections because all of our mail is public and we don't want people's Social Security numbers on public email. So use the My OEB document management for that. Okay, next slide. This is a complete list of all of our OARs, and you can find a link to our administrative rules also at our state website, www.oebinfo.com. Okay, next slide. I think this is my contact information. And there I am, and my throat's scratchy from talking so much. And we are ending. It is 12:32. We are 2 minutes over time, everybody. I'm sorry I have kept you for 2 minutes over time. But lots of great questions today. Again, if you registered for this webinar, you'll be sent a link to the recording. I'm pretty sure Sarah and Forrest will have the slide deck out under the administrative resources out there, so you can go back and look at the slide deck. If you're like, wait a minute, I think I missed something that Linda or Debbie said, you can shoot us an email or send it into the OEB benefit inbox, and they'll either send it to us or one of the staff would be able to answer it. But again, it's a joy to serve all of you. We love our school districts, we love our community colleges, we love our local governments, our ESDs, our charters. You all are a joy to work with, and we appreciate every single one of you. So thank you for a wonderful webinar today, and we hope that you learned something. So thank you very much.